what happened was the EU was flooded with cheap goods from places like China, where they weren't having to pay this tax. And the EU believes that that's a little bit unfair on local businesses. So what the tax is supposed to be is a tax on these foreign sellers who are flooding our markets with really, really cheap products and could get it in. This extra €3 now per package is going to be charged effectively. So for anything less than 150 euros, a €3 tax is chargeable. And what it's meant to do is really discourage foreign businesses from sending really, really cheap things in. So, if you're sending in a €10 product, which a lot of, when you go on Amazon or one of these places and they send stuff to you, you can be buying something for £4 or €4. Now they're charging you a €3 tax on top of that. So the goal was a very protectionist move to protect European businesses from external forces. Unfortunately, a lot of European businesses buy their products from outside of the EU anyway, and they're getting hit with this €3 tax. So like a lot of things politicians do when it comes to business, they don't really think it through. So yeah, what's happening is from July of 2026, there's a €3 tax on every product that comes into the EU. That's the shipment is less than 150 euros. What does that mean? It means that the cost of selling to Europe is now €3 per package more expensive, and ultimately prices are going to go up. I mean, these e-commerce businesses work with really low margins. Even the guys who are selling good clothing, their margins are very small because it takes a lot to manufacture and to ship around the world and insure everything. There's a question of, well, who pays that extra €3? What they could do is they could sell their product for the same price, but now their cost has gone up by €3 per sale. Most are not going to do that. Most are just going to pass it on to the consumer, and you're then going to see inflation. So I think my post that you're referring to, I was quite critical of because I love cheap goods. It's very nice to go on the internet and buy things for cheap. I don't care that there could be a European business selling it for more. This is capitalism. I believe in free markets, etc. So I think it's a move that they've done, and we'll see how successful it's going to be. But I feel like it's going to end in inflation, but inflation in a very specific place in the market. So like there's going to be things that used to be really, really cheap for us are going to be a little bit more expensive from July onwards here in the EU. And then we'll see if they change their minds after that.
But don't you think it's a way to disguise essentially an increase in tax? Like they say, it's to protect the local businesses. We are putting this to protect you. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like, we want to increase taxes. We can't increase VAT because people will say something. So
I mean, it definitely is. Obviously, all taxes are that at the end of the day. The tax authorities want revenue, but there's two ways to tax. You either tax the company or you tax your citizens. This is ultimately going to be a tax on their citizens rather than a tax on the companies. And I think that's where a lot of people are unhappy. It's more expensive I'm not in the EU anymore, but for you guys as EU people, it's an extra €3 per shipment. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a tax raising exercise, but they don't think it through. Who are they taxing? They're taxing the individuals, not the businesses who they should be taxing.